This is Henry Doktorsky, the author of Killing for Krishna, The Danger of Deranged Devotion. Reading Chapter 1, A Thorn in Bhaktipad's Side, Part 1. Stephen Leslie Bryant, July 4, 1952 to May 22, 1986. Was the son of a United States Air Force officer and a German-born high school teacher, Jack W. and Helga L. Bryant. Although Stephen was born in Laramie, a small town in southeastern Wyoming, he grew up in Royal Oak, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit, about 15 miles northwest from downtown. His hair was blonde, his eyes were blue, he stood 6 feet tall and weighed about 170 pounds. A newspaper reporter explained, quote, "He, Stephen Bryant, grew up in Royal Oak and graduated from Kimball High School. During his junior year of high school, he attended a private military school in the South because there were too many distractions in the way of cars here," said his mother, a retired high school teacher. He returned to Kimball for his senior year. Soon after leaving for college, Stephen became infatuated with the Krishnas and quit school to join the community in Detroit, Jack Bryant said, unquote. Solochan's father remembered, quote, "He tried to convert us, but we would have none of that," unquote. At Detroit ISKCON, Steve met another novice, Bhakta Terry Ray Sheldon. The two often worked together, as Steve was a good carpenter and Terry a good mechanic. They became friends and shared a special camaraderie as they both surrendered to Prabhupada around the same time. However, after a few months, Terry left the city of Detroit for the rural ISKCON farm community in West Virginia. Steve remained at Detroit ISKCON. During July 1974, Steve accepted initiation from his spiritual master, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. At his initiation ceremony, Steve prophetically received the Sanskrit name Solochan Das, in English, servant of Solochan, the son of Dhritarashtra. In the Mahabharata, Solochan is mentioned as one of the 100 sons of King Dhritarashtra and Queen Gandhari. The historical Solochan was killed by Bhima during the Battle of Kurukshetra some 5,000 years ago. 3 months after Stephen became Solochan, Bhakta Terry became Tapapunj at an October 1974 fire sacrifice at New Vrindavan. In Sanskrit, tapa refers to austerities and penances, and punj means heaps or volumes of pious activities. The name Tapapunj, therefore, means one who serves the Lord, who performs heaps or volumes of austerities and pious activities. Solochan was an excellent masseur and liked to offer this intimate personal service for the pleasure of his godbrothers. Narayan Das Vishwakarma, Nathan Baruch Zakheim, an ISKCON artist who served as the art director for the BBT, remembered the time he met Solochan in Detroit. Quote, "During a visit to Detroit ISKCON in 1974 or 1975, I once again met Solochan. He was very friendly, and he really appreciated all the devotees. He was a very good masseur, and he gave me a massage. He told me that his personal objective was to give full-body massages to all of Prabhupada's male disciples as a means of giving them some personal seva, service. He felt it an honor to do this," unquote. Narayan also remembered a curious conversation he had with Solochan during his massage. Quote, "While Solochan was massaging me, he told me a very creepy story. Sometime earlier, he had given Bhavananda, Charles Bakis, a senior devotee who was initiated in Los Angeles in 1969, a full-body massage. He said that Bhavananda requested Solochan to go down on him, perform fellatio, that it was a spiritual act of advanced understanding that Solochan, as a relative neophyte, could not possibly yet understand. Sulochana objected and declared that this was totally against the regulative principles to which he had vowed his life. Bhavananda insisted and said that doing this would transcend the four regulative principles, which, after all, pertained only to the material body on the material plane, and that this act with Bhavananda was far more advanced on the actual spiritual platform than Sulochana could even begin to understand. Sulochana did not want to contradict a highly charismatic person whom he considered to be almost on the level of Guru, or at least much more spiritually advanced than himself. He complied. He confided in me, as he had known me from Los Angeles and considered that I could give him some possible alternate understanding than the one given by Bhavananda. I gave him a clear understanding of Bhavananda's lifelong homosexuality, his cavorting with other homosexuals in New York with Andy Warhol, and his appearance in Warhol's 1966 art house classic film, Chelsea Girls. Sulochana was deeply shocked, but took it philosophically. After all, he had acted in good faith. Unquote. Narayan's story about Sulochana and Bhavananda, although perhaps unusual, is not unheard of. Novice devotees, as a rule, can easily become bewildered or confused or taken advantage of, as they typically do not yet fully understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the importance of the four regulative principles, which prohibits illicit sex. In 1970, Kirtanananda Swami attempted to play the same trick on a 20-year-old godbrother in Calcutta, India. Hanuman Das, Henri Jolicoeur, recalled, quote, Kirtanananda made sexual advances toward me. In Calcutta, Kirtanananda took me apart in the ISKCON house and told me that Tibetan monks in the monasteries were permitted to have sex between monks. He told me this in a low, quiet voice near my face. After a few times, I made it clear to him that I was not interested in learning about it. I was serving directly Prabhupada now. Unquote. I remember one of my god-sisters at New Vrindavan, a beautiful young woman with a slender waist from New Zealand, whose first experience in Krishna consciousness was having intercourse with a sexually gregarious male Prabhupada disciple at the 1980 Rainbow Gathering in West Virginia's Monongahela National Forest. An experienced devotee would never fall for such a trick as Bhavananda played on Sulochana, as Kirtanananda tried on Hanuman Das, and the New Vrindavan Prabhupada disciple played on my god-sister. Sulochana left Detroit in 1975, around the same time when ISKCON purchased the 1927 Lawrence Fisher Mansion on Lenox Avenue, a 4-acre estate of formal gardens, pools, and fountains overlooking the Detroit River. Sulochana came to New Vrindavan, where his mechanically inclined friend Tapapunj had settled. Perhaps, he thought, this rural village in the Allegheny Plateau might be a good place for him to serve his spiritual master and ISKCON. However, the daily austerities at New Vrindavan, cold showers, no hot water, smoky wood-burning stoves, ankle-deep mud, simple prasadam cooked without ghee, etc., were more than Sulochana could handle, so he relocated to the warm and sunny Los Angeles ISKCON temple on Watseka Avenue in Culver City, where he served at the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, BBT. There, he helped index Prabhupada's monumental opus, his translation with commentary on the Sanskrit scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, also known as the Bhagavat Purana. Sulochana was by nature friendly and was liked by many of his associates. One devotee at ISKCON Los Angeles remembered, quote, Steve was just a real nice guy. We had fun. I thought he was a nice man, unquote. Sulochana's lawyer, David Gold, noted, quote, he was tall, blond, and fairly good-looking. What kept him from being truly handsome was a touch of goofiness in his face and smile, unquote. In Los Angeles, Sulochana met Puranjan Das, Tim Lee, who served as the manager of the Spanish Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and the two became best friends. Puranjana said, quote, we just became friends. Everybody liked him. He was just a very affable kind of guy, unquote. Another friend at New Dwarka, Los Angeles ISKCON, remembered Sulochana, quote, I knew him in Los Angeles as we both did Pujari service. He was a great person, a very sincere follower of Srila Prabhupada, and a good friend of mine," unquote. The Gopi Bhava Club. In the spring of 1976, a select group of about 50 devotees in Los Angeles began secretly meeting together to read and discuss the intimate conjugal pastimes of Radha and Krishna, as revealed in Prabhupada's books. Puranjan was the leader of the men's group, and Salochan attended the meetings. When Prabhupada heard about this in June, he became furious and met with Puranjan and Salochan, whom he feared had been contaminated by Sahajya tendencies. Sahajya refers to a devotee who takes things cheaply and doesn't strictly follow the regulative principles. Prabhupada's servant, Hari Sari, Dennis Harrison, remembered the Gopi Bhava Club and Prabhupada's condemnation of same. Quote, June 5th, 1976. Prabhupada had just sat down in the middle room of his residential suite at Los Angeles ISKCON for breakfast when Pradyumna, Paul H. Sherbo, a senior ISKCON scholar initiated in New York in April 1967, brilliant in Sanskrit learning, who edited the Sanskrit and Bengali passages in Prabhupada's books and at one time served as Prabhupada's personal secretary, came in, obviously quite disturbed. Prabhupada allowed him to come up to his small table, already set out with his silver thali plate of cut fruits, puffed rice, and fried cashews. Pradyumna began to complain about the study group mentioned yesterday. He told Prabhupada one devotee was reported to have said that the Gita was too bodily conscious and external, and that he became inspired only by reading about Krishna's confidential internal dealings, especially those of the gopis in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada was so disturbed by this news that the piece of fruit he held in his hand never made it into his mouth. Abandoning breakfast, he went back into his darshan room and called for all GBC men and sannyasis, as well as for several members of the study group. He demanded to know who was involved. Hridayananda Maharaj, Howard J. Resnick, the GBC representative for much of South America, told him that the head of the men's group was Puranjan Das, the manager of the Spanish BBT operations. He was immediately sent for, as was Salochan Das, a brahmachari I had gotten to know in Mayapur, India, during the festival 3 months earlier. As we awaited their arrival, Hridayananda Maharaj tried to assure Srila Prabhupada about Puranjan. He said he was actually a sincere and level-headed person, and he didn't think he had Sahajya tendencies. He thought he was simply misled. I told Srila Prabhupada that Salochan had approached me yesterday in an excited and conspirational mood to tell me about the surreptitious meetings. He was quoting parts of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita without, it seemed to me, understanding them, and had many misinterpretations of the text. He had cited some verses which he interpreted to say that in each relationship with the Lord there is something lacking, which is found only in the next rasa. He indicated that they actually considered paternal affection inferior to the Gopi Bhava platform, because Lord Chaitanya said that there is no higher way to serve Krishna than in the mood of the gopis. They were therefore concentrating on the gopis' lives very closely, for they exhibited the highest and most pleasing way to satisfy Sri Krishna. As I related the incident, Srila Prabhupada's anger flared. "Just see," he declared disgustedly, "Mother Yashoda is less than the gopis. This is their thinking. And they want Siddha Deha." Siddha Deha is the form of the soul's eternal spiritual body. Prabhupada was furious that such things could develop within ISKCON. By the time the men were in his room, and for almost 3/4 of an hour, he strongly rebuked the group, angrily refuting its reasoning. He compared their exclusive focus on the gopis to jumping like monkeys. Puranjana said their intention was to simply scrutinize the activities of the gopis and develop the same aspirations, because this was recommended by Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada got even angrier. He was in no mood for being mollified. "You want to scrutinizingly study Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, but why just the parts about the gopis? Why don't you scrutinizingly study where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, 'Guru more murkadeki karila sasana,' that his guru found him to be a fool, and told him he was not fit for anything but chanting Hare Krishna. Why don't you scrutinize that part? First become a fool like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before jumping over like monkey. Puranjana tried to reassure him that they were not attempting to imitate the gopis' love of Krishna. They were simply studying the descriptions so that they could develop such desires. Prabhupada flushed, his top lip quivering. First deserve, then desire. There is no question of desire unless one is actually liberated. Until that point, you simply do whatever service you are given. So long as there is any pinch of material desire, there is no question of desiring on the spiritual platform. He said the intimate Gopi Leelas were discussed by Lord Chaitanya only among his three most confidential associates, Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Roy, and Sikhi Mahiti. Siddhadeha is for liberated souls, no one else. Salochan said that they had thought it was all right because it was in Prabhupada's books and they were only reading his books. Prabhupada told them that just because a drugstore has every type of drug, it does not mean that one can get them without a prescription. The doctor prescribes according to the disease. He said that from the beginning stages of devotional service up to the highest rasas, everything is there in his books, but they are not all to be immediately studied. He ordered them not to hold any more meetings and to disband the club. After sending them out duly chastened, Prabhupada explained to us that this Sahajiya philosophy means the preaching will be finished. So try to save them, he advised the GBC men. In Vrindavan, many Sahajiyas would ask, "Oh Swamiji, why are you bothering to preach? Why not just be content to stay in Vrindavan and do your bhajan?" June 8, 1976. The leading members of the Sahajiya group wrote a letter to Prabhupada apologizing for jumping like monkeys. Hridayananda Maharaj delivered it and reported that they had obeyed Prabhupada's order and stopped having any further meetings. Unfortunately, a short while later, he came back and informed Prabhupada that Puranjana Das had abandoned his service at the Spanish BBT and blooped, defected from ISKCON. "And you said he was sincere," Prabhupada remarked to Hridayananda, unquote. The formation and dissolution of the Gopi Baba Club was not a minor footnote in ISKCON history. It was so important that 21 years later, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Thomas G. Herzig, discussed it in detail in an article for the ISKCON Communications Journal about heresies in ISKCON.